You're trying to lose weight around your belly and you find it difficult. It's not just a matter of willpower. Abdominal fat follows certain physiological characteristics that we'll discuss in this video. I'll tell you how to achieve it in 8 steps. At least one of the steps will surprise you or is something you've rarely heard about. And the last one is the one I care about most. Step 1, understanding the characteristics of abdominal fat. The fat we accumulate around the belly, sometimes called visceral fat, has specific characteristics. We need to distinguish 2 types of fat in this area. There is subcutaneous fat, wasabgi, wasabi, wasagi tai, wasadwe tai. What lies just under the skin, found throughout the body, and boldi, wendi, ursai, and visceral fat, which surrounds the internal organs. That's what we mean when we talk about abdominal fat. This fat has particular characteristics, and it's no coincidence that waist circumference is measured among the indicators used to assess overall health. It's part of the cardiovascular and metabolic health indicators. Why? Because this fat around the organs isn't just tissue sitting there waiting. It has its own specific metabolism. There are enzymes within it. There is biological activity taking place. This is how we know that this fat, for example, increases the risk of chronic inflammation in the body. It also increases the risk of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to even more insulin secretion, which means a greater risk of fat accumulation and a greater risk of developing diabetes. If you want to understand the full link between insulin resistance, weight gain, and health, check out the videos I've already made on the topic. This fat also contains enzymes that literally alter hormonal function. I've mentioned before in videos about testosterone that abdominal fat contains an enzyme that converts testosterone into estrogen. This occurs in women as well, disrupting hormonal balance in both men and women. Abdominal fat is also often associated with fat around the neck, which together increases the risk of sleep apnea, among other things. That said, even though abdominal fat has these specific characteristics, which is why as a doctor I look at waist circumference and not just weight, it still obeys the same general principle as the rest of the body. The body will use it when it needs energy and has to draw on its reserves. However, for many people, the body tends to use abdominal fat last. That is, weight is lost first in the neck, face, arms, legs, and thighs, and only later, and often frustratingly, in the B, I, E, now, day, Z, now, day, A, day in the belly. Step 2, creating an intelligent caloric deficit. There's no mystery here. For the body to use its fat stores, it needs energy. That means the calories consumed must be lower than the calories burned. What we call a caloric deficit. In those moments, the body first uses its glycogen reserves, then turns to fat, converting it into ketone bodies. This is the principle behind the ketogenic diet, and it's also what happens during intermittent fasting. But if your caloric deficit diet is too restrictive or too low in protein, your body won't just convert fat into energy, it will also break down your muscles. Why is losing muscle a problem? I've explained in previous videos the importance of preserving muscle mass, including in my video on creatine, a well-researched supplement. Muscle mass increases your baseline metabolism. In other words, if I lose muscle in my thighs, arms, and shoulders, I actually increase my risk of obesity and of accumulating even more abdominal fat. Conversely, if I build muscle mass even at rest, sitting here talking to you, my metabolism is more active than it would be without that muscle. So a diet that is too restrictive, too low in protein, and cuts calories too aggressively risks not only being ineffective at losing belly fat, but also further disrupting your metabolism. Step 3, eating balanced isn't enough. Does that surprise you? Eat balanced and as little ultra-processed food as possible. Recent research has shown that 2 people eating the same macronutrients, same amounts of protein, fat, and carbohydrates, both eating balanced, can have very different outcomes if one eats industrially processed food with many added chemicals to preserve it, and the other eats minimally processed homemade food. The person eating a balanced diet but with ultra-processed foods still risks accumulating body fat, developing diabetes, depression, and chronic inflammation. Where does this mystery come from? It comes from the fact that ultra-processed products contain many chemical additives that disrupt our gut microbiome, which in turn disrupts our metabolism. These chemicals are also direct metabolic disruptors, meaning that even eating a balanced diet, those chemicals can derail your internal metabolism. Step 4. Move more and move smarter. As we've discussed many times on this channel, physical activity is a remedy for many things. It can improve metabolism, cardiovascular health, fracture risk, sexual health in both men and women, sleep, and more. But to lose the abdominal fat we're discussing, the last fat the body uses, simply exercising without thinking about the type of activity may not be enough. For example, doing 2 to 3 hours of sport once a week is likely less effective for our goal than having regular daily physical activity. And we're not necessarily talking about structured sports. We're talking about what's known as NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. For example, getting up frequently from your chair to take a few steps, doing small squats, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, walking instead of driving, etc. Even while sitting, I can lift my feet off the ground. You can't see it, but I'm doing it right now, which works the thighs and abs slightly. All these small things add up to continuous muscular activity throughout the day, which is very valuable. You're burning more calories while also working your muscles. And counterintuitively, strength training appears to be just as effective, if not slightly more so, than cardio for losing fat. Honestly, do whatever sport you enjoy, but do it. Any increase in physical activity will help you lose weight and eventually reach that abdominal fat. But never forget to include strength training as well. Promotional section for Charles.co platform omitted from translation as it is advertising content. Step 5. Sleep enough and sleep restoratively. Sleep is medicine. It's not optional, just like physical activity and nutrition. It is truly indispensable for the proper functioning of the body, including the accumulation of visceral fat. It has been proven that people who sleep well lose more body fat overall, which increases the chances of losing belly fat. During sleep, many systems in the body reset: hormonal secretions, the metabolic system, insulin regulation, and more. Deep sleep phases are like a real treatment that restores the body to balance. Step 6. Reduce and manage stress. You've likely heard a lot lately about cortisol and stress causing weight gain, particularly the accumulation of abdominal fat. People with actual hypercortisolism, Cushing syndrome, do accumulate fat in the belly and in unusual places like between the shoulder blades, the buffalo hump. But be careful. Don't bother with detox products or supplements claiming to lower cortisol. As a doctor, I can tell you they are completely useless. Why? Because cortisol is high because of stress. Trying to lower cortisol without addressing the stress is like having a fever and trying to lower the number on the thermometer without actually treating the illness. It makes no sense. The goal isn't for the thermometer to look better. It's for your body to no longer be feverish. So recognize when you're under stress, step back, and manage the source. Step 7. Forget flat stomach exercises and crunches. Doing AB exercises will not cause fat loss in the abdominal area. Additionally, abdominal muscles burn far fewer calories than larger muscle groups like the glutes or thighs. Climbing stairs is more useful for losing belly fat than doing crunches. That said, some studies suggest that doing ABs after a full workout session may slightly increase fat burning around the abdomen compared to doing them at another time. But overall, working the muscles of the whole body is far more effective for losing belly fat than focusing on the abs. However, ab exercises do tone the muscles, which can improve firmness and appearance. That's fine, but it won't melt the fat away. Step 8, and most important, consistency and patience. As I mentioned throughout this video, abdominal fat is, for many people, one of the last reserves the body taps into during weight loss. So if after 2 to 3 weeks you feel like you're not losing belly fat, even though you're losing elsewhere. It means either you're making some mistakes, losing muscle mass, eating too few proteins, not doing strength training, or you're simply not yet in the phase where the body starts using abdominal fat. Apply all the advice given and give yourself time. And you may already know the medical rule I've mentioned in other videos. If you apply all of these recommendations diligently for 3 to 6 months and your fat loss remains minimal, less than 5% of initial body weight, there may be a metabolic regulation issue. And in that case, it's worth consulting a doctor to assess eligibility for medical obesity treatment. Conclusion, losing belly fat isn't just about doing crunches. It's not just about eating less either. It's a kind of Swiss watchwork in which you eat differently, move differently, sleep differently, and give yourself the time needed to use up fat that is itself a tissue harmful to your overall health. And it's not just an aesthetic issue. It's about your health.